The dusty storage room beneath MGM Studios held secrets for 8 decades. On that humid March morning in 2019, when construction workers discovered a rusted metal box behind a collapsed wall, they had no idea they were about to uncover Hollywood's darkest confession. Inside were 12 magnetic tape reels, carefully wrapped in oilcloth, preserved by accident rather than design. The handwritten label read simply, J.G. Sessions, 1939, private. Those initials belonged to Harold Brennan, a sound technician who had worked at MGM during Hollywood's golden age. His granddaughter Sarah would later discover his journal, hidden in the same attic where she'd found references to these mysterious recordings. The entry from September 15, 1939, still haunts those who've read it. I cannot stand by and watch this anymore. If I cannot stop it, at least I can document it. Someday, when the world is ready, they will know what happened to that poor girl. That poor girl was Judy Garland, just 16 years old, trapped in a nightmare, dressed as a fairy tale. The morning Sarah Brennan first played those tapes, she had to stop 3 times. The voice coming through the old reel-to-reel player her grandfather had kept was unmistakably Judy Garland's, but not the Judy the world knew. This voice was broken, exhausted, and worst of all, terrified. Between sobs, young Judy revealed what happened when the camera stopped rolling on the set of The Wizard of Oz. They wake me at 4 in the morning. Judy's voice crackled through the decades. Not with an alarm clock or a gentle shake. They inject me with something that makes my heart race so fast I think it might explode. Dr. Rabwin says it's just vitamins, but I know it's not. My hands shake for hours afterward. Before we continue with this incredible revelation that changed everything we thought we knew about Hollywood's golden age, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more untold stories from Tinseltown's darkest corners. The tapes revealed a systematic pattern of abuse that went far beyond what anyone had imagined. Louis B. Mayer, the powerful head of MGM, had constructed an elaborate system to control his youngest star. Every morning, Judy was given a cocktail of amphetamines to keep her energetic and thin. Her daily food intake was monitored down to the calorie. A single extra pound meant public humiliation in front of the entire cast and crew. Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch of the West, would later confirm parts of Judy's account in her own diary. Discovered after her death in 1985. She wrote, "That child is being destroyed before our eyes. Yesterday she fainted during the poppy field scene. When she came to, the first thing Mayer did was slap her face and call her weak. I tried to intervene, but Fleming pulled me aside and told me I'd be replaced if I said another word." Victor Fleming, the film's director, emerged in the tapes as particularly cruel. Judy described an incident that occurred during the filming of the famous Over the Rainbow sequence. She had been singing for 6 straight hours, take after take, because Mayer wanted it perfect. When her voice finally cracked from exhaustion, Fleming grabbed her by the shoulders and shook her violently. "He shook me until my teeth rattled," Judy whispered in the recording. Then he said, if I ruined one more take, he'd make sure I never sang in Hollywood again. My mother was standing right there. She saw everything. She did nothing. Ethel Marion Gum, Judy's mother, was perhaps the most heartbreaking revelation in the tapes. Far from protecting her daughter, Ethel was actively complicit in the abuse. She had negotiated a separate payment from Mayer, essentially selling her daughter's well-being for money. In one particularly painful segment, Judy recalled finding a letter from her mother to Mayer, discussing how to handle Judy's rebellious phases. The physical abuse was meticulously hidden. Judy described how the costume department, led by Adrian Greenberg, had to constantly adjust her dresses to hide bruises. The famous blue gingham dress had specially designed sleeves after Judy appeared on set with finger marks on her upper arms. When Judy asked Adrian why this was happening to her, he reportedly broke down in tears but said, "There's nothing I can do, sweetheart. Nothing any of us can do." Ray Bolger, the Scarecrow, tried to protect Judy in small ways. He would deliberately flub his lines when he saw she was exhausted, giving her precious minutes to rest. Jack Haley, who played the Tin Man, would sneak her food when the studio's diet supervisor wasn't watching. But these small kindnesses couldn't protect her from what happened behind closed doors. The most disturbing revelation came in tape number 7. Judy's voice, barely above a whisper, described the private meetings in Mayer's office. These sessions would last for hours, always with the door locked, always ending with Judy in tears. She never explicitly stated what happened, but the terror in her voice painted a clear enough picture. "He would call me into his office after everyone else had gone home," she said. "He'd lock the door and pull down the blinds. He'd make me sit on his lap while he talked about my career, about how ungrateful I was, about how I owed everything to him. His hands were always moving. I learned to go somewhere else in my mind. I'd think about the songs, about the dance steps, about anything but what was happening." Mickey Rooney, Judy's frequent co-star and friend, had tried to intervene once. The tapes mention an incident where Rooney confronted Mayer directly, demanding to know why Judy was always so upset after their meetings. The next day, Rooney was suspended from the studio for a month without pay. When he returned, he never asked questions again. Dr. Marcus Rabwin, the studio physician, was administering a daily cocktail of drugs that would be considered criminal today: Benzedrine to wake her up, Seconal to put her to sleep, and a variety of other substances to control her appetite, her mood, and her compliance. By the time filming wrapped on The Wizard of Oz, Judy was completely dependent on these drugs, a dependency that would ultimately kill her 30 years later. The tragedy deepened with each tape. Judy described how she would beg her mother to let her quit, to go back to school, to have a normal life. Ethel's response was always the same: "We need this, baby. The family needs this. Don't be selfish." One of the most heartbreaking moments came when Judy described watching the first screening of The Wizard of Oz. As the audience applauded and critics proclaimed it a masterpiece, all she could think about was the pain behind every scene. When she sang "Over the Rainbow," she wasn't dreaming of a better place. She was begging for escape from her real life. "Everyone sees Dorothy going on this magical adventure," she said in the recording. "But I was trapped in my own tornado, and there was no yellow brick road leading me home. There was no good witch to save me. There was just the studio, the contracts, and the pills." Buddy Ebsen, who was originally cast as the Tin Man before being replaced by Jack Haley, had actually been fired for defending Judy. The official story was that he had been poisoned by aluminum dust from the makeup, but Judy revealed the truth. Ebsen had walked into Mayer's office during one of those private meetings and demanded it stop. He was immediately fired and threatened with legal action if he ever spoke about what he'd seen. The studio's publicity machine worked overtime to create the image of Judy as America's sweetheart, the happy teenager living her dream. Behind the scenes, they assigned her a handler, a woman named Jessie Marvin, who was supposedly her assistant, but was actually there to ensure Judy never spoke to reporters without supervision, never went anywhere alone, and never had the opportunity to tell anyone what was really happening. Bert Lahr, who played the Cowardly Lion, left a cryptic note in his own memoir. "The bravest person on that set was the youngest. She faced monsters we couldn't see and fought battles we couldn't help her win." Now, with these tapes, we finally understand what he meant. The tapes also revealed that Judy had tried to escape once. 3 weeks into filming, she had packed a small bag and attempted to run away in the middle of the night. She made it as far as the bus station before studio security found her and brought her back. The next day, Mayer had her mother move into her dressing room to watch her 24 hours a day. As the recordings progressed, Harold Brennan could occasionally be heard comforting Judy, offering her water, telling her she didn't have to continue if it was too painful. But Judy insisted on telling her story. "Someone needs to know," she said. "Someone needs to remember the truth, not the fairy tale they're selling." The impact of the abuse became clear in Judy's later behavior. Her notorious tardiness, her difficulty with directors, her struggles with addiction, all of it traced back to that 16-year-old girl being systematically destroyed by the very people who claimed to be making her a star. She had learned that the only way to survive was to escape, whether through pills, alcohol, or simply not showing up. In one of the most poignant moments on the tapes, Judy reflected on the irony of her most famous song, "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," had become an anthem of hope for millions. But for her, it was a desperate cry for help that no one heard. "When I sing 'Somewhere Over the Rainbow,' skies are blue. I'm not thinking about some magical place," she said. I'm thinking about a world where little girls aren't locked in offices with powerful men, where mothers protect their daughters instead of selling them, where you can be tired without being drugged, hungry without being punished, sad without being slapped. The tapes revealed that other young actors at MGM were experiencing similar treatment. Judy mentioned Elizabeth Taylor, then just a child, already being groomed for the same system. She spoke about seeing Shirley Temple, on loan from Fox, crying in a bathroom. The abuse wasn't limited to one studio or one victim. It was an industry-wide sickness that consumed children and spit out broken adults. George Cukor, who would later direct Judy in A Star is Born, had tried to help her during his brief time on The Wizard of Oz, set before being replaced by Fleming. The tapes mention him pulling Judy aside and telling her, "This isn't normal, darling. This isn't how it's supposed to be," but even he couldn't stand up to Mayer's power. The physical toll was evident even then. Judy described constant stomach pains from the diet pills, headaches from the amphetamines, and a persistent tremor in her hands that made it difficult to hold props steady. The famous scene where Dorothy picks up Toto had to be shot 15 times because her hands were shaking so badly. One name that appears repeatedly in the tapes is Baron Polin, Judy's agent at the time. While publicly representing her interests, Polin was actually working with Mayer to keep Judy compliant. He would report back any signs of rebellion, any attempts to seek help, any conversations that suggested she might try to break her contract. Judy discovered this betrayal when she overheard Polin on the phone with Mayer, discussing how to handle the Garland problem. The makeup department became Judy's only refuge. The women there, Dorothy Ponadol, Betty Asher, and others, would let her rest in their chairs, would pretend she needed extra touch-ups just to give her a break from filming. They couldn't stop what was happening, but they offered what comfort they could. Judy mentions in the tapes that Betty Asher would sometimes hold her while she cried, whispering, "Just a little longer, honey. Just hold on a little longer." But perhaps the most devastating revelation was about the drugs. Dr. Rabwin wasn't just giving Judy pills to control her weight and energy. He was experimenting on her. The tapes reveal that MGM was testing various drug combinations on their young stars to find the perfect mix for maximum productivity and minimum resistance. Judy was essentially a laboratory rat in a corporate experiment. "They write down everything," Judy said in one recording. "How many hours I can work on each pill, which combinations make me most cooperative, what doses keep me thin but still able to perform. I heard Dr. Rabwin tell Mr. Mayer that they've perfected the formula with me and can use it on the other girls." The tapes also revealed that Judy had attempted suicide twice during the filming of The Wizard of Oz. Both attempts were covered up by the studio, reported as exhaustion and allergic reactions. The second attempt, an overdose of the very pills they were forcing on her, led to a 3-day hospitalization that was hidden from the press. Frank Morgan, who played the wizard, left a letter to his wife that was discovered years later. In it, he wrote, "I play a fraud in the film, a man pretending to be powerful while hiding behind a curtain. But the real frauds are the men running this studio, pretending to create magic while destroying the very soul of magic herself, that poor Garland girl." The recordings revealed that Judy had begged Harold Brennan to help her escape. She had offered him all her savings, about $300 she had hidden away, if he would just drive her somewhere, anywhere, away from Hollywood. Brennan, bound by his own contract and fearing for his family's safety, couldn't do it. The guilt of that decision haunted him for the rest of his life. In one of the final tapes, Judy's voice had changed. The innocent, frightened girl was replaced by someone harder, someone who had accepted her fate. "I know now that I'll never escape," she said. "They own me until I'm no longer useful. Then they'll throw me away like they do all the others. But maybe if someone hears this someday, maybe another little girl won't have to go through what I did." The tapes end abruptly on October 3rd, 1939. Harold Brennan's journal explains why. Mayer had become suspicious of Brennan's relationship with Judy. He was transferred to another department and forbidden from any contact with her. The last entry reads, "I have failed her. I have failed them all. May God forgive me for my cowardice." When the tapes were authenticated and released to the public in 2020, the reaction was immediate and devastating. MGM's successor company issued statements denying the allegations. but the evidence was overwhelming. Voice analysis confirmed it was indeed Judy Garland. Former MGM employees, many now in their 90s, came forward to corroborate parts of her story. Liza Minnelli, Judy's daughter, released a statement saying, "My mother tried to tell this story many times, but no one wanted to hear it. They wanted Dorothy, not Judy. They wanted the rainbow, not the storm. These tapes prove what I always knew. My mother wasn't difficult or troubled. She was a survivor." The discovery prompted a broader investigation into Hollywood's treatment of child actors during the Golden Age. More stories emerged. Stories of drugged children, sexual abuse, financial exploitation, and systematic destruction of young lives in the name of entertainment. Dr. Stuart Fishoff, a Hollywood historian, commented, "These tapes don't just reveal abuse, they reveal an entire system designed to consume children." Judy Garland wasn't an isolated case. She was the norm. The only difference is that someone had the courage to secretly document what was happening to her. The tapes also led to the discovery of other hidden recordings. Harold Brennan, it turned out, had recorded several young actors during his time at MGM, all telling similar stories. Most of these recordings were destroyed in a studio fire in 1967, but the Judy Garland tapes survived because Brennan had taken them home, unable to bear destroying her voice. Margaret O'Brien, another child star from MGM, came forward after hearing the tapes. At 83 years old, she confirmed, "Everything Judy said was true. We all knew it. We all lived it. But we were children, and they were gods. What could we do?" The most chilling aspect of the tapes is how calculated the abuse was. This wasn't random cruelty or individual monsters. It was a carefully designed system to extract maximum profit from vulnerable children. Memos discovered in the MGM archives, written in Mayer's own hand, discussed the proper management of child assets and the chemical maintenance of performance standards. In 2021, California passed Judy's Law, increasing protections for child actors and requiring regular psychological evaluations and independent advocacy. It was a small justice, decades too late for Judy and her contemporaries, but perhaps salvation for future generations. The final tape, discovered separately in Harold Brennan's safety deposit box, contained a message from Brennan himself, recorded in 1969, the day after Judy's death. "She called me once, years later. She was drunk, or high, probably both. She asked if I still had the tapes. I lied and said they were destroyed. She said, 'Good, let Dorothy live. Judy's already dead. I should have saved her. I should have done something. These tapes are my confession and her vindication.'" Today, The Wizard of Oz remains one of the most beloved films ever made. Children still watch Dorothy dance down the yellow brick road, still sing along to Over the Rainbow, still believe in the magic of Hollywood. But now we know the true cost of that magic. It was paid in the tears, trauma, and ultimately the life of a 16-year-old girl named Frances Ethel Gum, whom the world would know as Judy Garland. In her final recording, Judy left us with words that echo across the decades. "They can take everything from me, my childhood, my health, my dignity, but they can't take my voice. Someday someone will hear these tapes. Someday someone will know the truth. And maybe, just maybe, someday no other child will have to survive what I survived, just to sing a song." The rainbow she sang about was never over some mystical horizon. It was simply a world where children could be children, where talent didn't mean ownership, where dreams didn't become nightmares. Judy never found her rainbow, but by leaving us these tapes, she built a bridge to it for others. The Harold Brennan tapes force us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Our entertainment has often come at an unconscionable human cost. Every time we watch The Wizard of Oz, we're watching a document of abuse. Every time we hear Over the Rainbow, we're hearing a cry for help that went unanswered for 80 years. But perhaps now, finally, Judy Garland can rest. Her truth has been told. Her voice, silenced for so long by those who claim to speak for her, rings out clear and undeniable from those dusty tapes found in a collapsed wall. She was not difficult. She was not troubled. She was a child, abused and exploited by an industry that saw her only as a product to be consumed. The last sound on the final tape is Judy humming softly, almost inaudibly. It's over the rainbow, but slower, sadder, like a lullaby for the childhood she never had. Then silence. A silence that lasted 80 years, until a construction crew knocked down a wall and set her voice free. The world finally knows what happened to Dorothy when she clicked her heels and said there's no place like home. For Judy Garland, there never was a home, only a studio that dressed her nightmare in Technicolor and sold it as a dream. But now, at last, the truth stands stronger than the myth. And somewhere, perhaps, Judy is finally free.